Dear students, welcome to the next session on database management system, and the topic of the session is keys. The course outcome of the unit is to construct the entity relationship model for obtaining the structure of a database, and at the end of the session you will be able to explain the importance and role of various keys in a database system. Let us have an understanding of what is keys in a database management system. Keys are an attribute or set of attributes which help to uniquely identify a row, that is a tuple, in a relation, which is a table. So the rows of a table are also called as tuples, and the tables are also called as relations. So in a table you will have a lot of entries, and each of these entries can be uniquely identified with the help of keys. For example, when you have a student table, each and every student can be uniquely identified with the help of his roll number. So the roll number forms the key of that particular relation. These keys allows you to find the relation between two tables also. Key is also helpful to find unique record or row from the table. We have different varieties of keys, and the first key that we are going to discuss is candidate key. The candidate key represents the minimal set of attributes that uniquely identifies each occurrence of an entity type. A candidate key is the minimal number of attributes whose values will help you to uniquely identify the entity occurrences. These keys must hold values that are unique for every occurrence. This implies that a candidate key cannot be null. As an example, we have a branch number attribute of branch, and this branch number is unique for each and every branch, and this forms your key. Here you have the branch number, so every branch in a bank will be identified by its branch number that forms its key. And you have an important variety of key which is called as primary key. The candidate key, you will have more number of candidate keys, and out of which one candidate key that is selected to uniquely identify each occurrence of an entity type is called as primary key. An entity type may have more than one candidate key. For example, in a staff relation, each and every staff will have a staff number which is defined by the company uniquely. Inside the company, every staff will have unique company defined staff number, and in some countries they have national insurance number like our Aadhaar number. So that is also a key for unique identification. So these two forms the candidate keys, out of which you can choose your primary key, one primary key for this entity. Choice of the primary key is based on the considerations of the attribute length and the minimal number of attributes required and the future certainty of uniqueness. The keys should not change in future, that is the certainty of uniqueness. Staff number here is chosen to be the primary key, and NIN is then referred to as the alternate key. In the previous slide we have discussed that a staff is having two keys, that is staff number and national insurance number, out of which I have taken staff number as the primary key. So obviously this national insurance number will become the alternate key. The next is the composite key. When a candidate key contains two or more attributes together, it is called as composite key. Key of an entity type is composed of several attributes whose values together are unique for each entity occurrence but not separately. When you are dividing it, it is not a composite key. So put together they'll help you to identify the unique occurrences. Example, you have a relation, consider that you have a relation advertisement. In that the properties are being advertised in day-to-day newspapers. So we have columns like property number, newspaper name, date of the advertisement, and cost, which are all the attributes. In order to uniquely identify, this requires values for property number, which property is being advertised in which newspaper in what date. So these together helps to identify a advertisement uniquely. So these three put together forms your composite primary key. You have one more key which is called as foreign key. A foreign key is a set of attributes in a table that refers to the primary key of another table. So this is for establishing a connection between two tables. This foreign key links two tables. You have a branch table and a staff table, where the branch table contains branch number, street, city, and postcode, and you have one more staff table which is having all the details of the staff and the branch number in which the staff is working. So here the branch number is present in both the staff table and the branch table. So this is the home relation where the branch number is associated. Every branch number is associated for the branch, and hence this is the home relation. And this branch number in the staff relation becomes the foreign key, which refers to the branch number of the branch in the, which is the primary key for that particular branch relation. I'll come again. Home relation, branch having a primary key as branch number. You are having one more relation which is staff, having the branch number in which the staff is associated. So this branch number refers to the branch number in home relation branch, which refers to the primary key of that home relation. So this branch number in staff becomes the foreign key. This helps to establish a link between two tables, here branch and staff. We have one more thing which is redundant attributes. So removing the redundant attributes in the entity set is very important. So in designing ER diagrams, you have to start by identifying the entity sets that should be included, and once the entity sets are decided, we must choose appropriate attributes. If student, instructor, project, course are decided to be your entities, then you have to decide what are all the attributes that can be given for each and every one of the entities. These attributes represent the values that we have to capture in the database. The choice of what attributes to include is up to the designer, who has a good understanding of the structure of the enterprise. So the designer has to initially have a good deeper understanding of the structure of the enterprise. Only then he can be able to decide what are the attributes that he have to get from the user. Once the entities and the attributes are chosen, then you have to establish the relationship between the entities. Consider a university database where you have the entity sets, instructor, which includes the attributes ID, name, department of association and salary, and ID forming the primary key for uniquely identifying the instructors. The entity set department includes the attributes, the department name, the building of the department, and what is the budget for the department, with department name forming the primary key. And you can design the relation like instructor is associated with the department. So instructor department is the name of the relation. Department name appears in both the entity sets. Here you could see that the instructor is associated with the department name, so that is present here, and also the department name is present in the department. So it is the primary key for the department entity, but it is redundant in the instructor. So one thing has to be removed. A good entity relationship design does not contain redundant attributes. It should not contain any repeated attributes. Let us discuss an ER diagram as an example and the concepts around this design. We have several important components for ER diagram. The rectangles which are divided into two parts, so that represents the entity sets. Diamonds represent the relationship sets. Undivided rectangles represents the attributes of relationship set. Primary key attributes have to be underlined, and the lines link the entity sets to the relationship sets. You have dashed lines that link the attributes of a relationship set to the relationship set. Double lines indicate total participation of entities, and double diamonds represent the identifying relationship sets linked to weak entities. These weak entities and participation we will be discussing in the future sessions. So these are the components of a ER diagram. Now let us see how to represent these attributes in a ER diagram. You have to divide the rectangle which represents the entity into two parts. Here staff is the name of the relation that is divided into two parts. The upper part of the rectangle displays the name of the entity, and the lower part displays the list of names of the attributes. So here staff number is the primary key. It can either be underlined or it can be indicated like this. And this is the area where you can list the attributes of that particular entity. So this is example where ER diagram which corresponds to instructors and students. Instructor, one way you can underline the primary key. So ID forms the primary key of instructor together with name and salary as the attributes. You have ID for student which is separate from instructor. So that is the primary key of student. You have name and total credits. Here you have an attribute which is associated with the relationship set. So this date is associated with the relationship advisor. The date in which the instructor and the student are associated. So that is indicated with the attribute for relationship set. This is not only for the instructor or the student. This is for the relation. And you have one more thing which is called as mapping cardinality, where you have four different types like one to one, one to many, many to one, and many to many. An instructor may advise at most one student, and a student may have at most one advisor. Here there is a relationship between instructor and student. If one instructor is associated with the student and one student is associated with the instructor, then it is called as one-to-one relationship. In case of one-to-many relationship, an instructor may advise many students, but a student may have only one advisor. So that is one-to-many. One student having one advisor, but there are many students for a instructor. So the instructor can advise many students. So there are many instructors and only one student for in the other side. So this is one to many. Many to one. That is, an instructor may advise only one student. Instructor can advise only one student, but a student may have many advisors. Many to many. An instructor may advise any number of students and a student may have any number of advisors. So this ER diagram facilitates you to design for any type of relationship between the entities. You can best choose your cardinality based on your scenario. This is the case where one student, one instructor. Here it is one instructor, one student, many instructor, many student, like that you can design. And if it is one, you can indicate with the arrow. Then the next is complex attributes. The complex attribute here is name. So you can have the attributes which are not having a single component of value, which is a collection of one or two or more attributes. For example, name is a composite attribute with components first name, middle name, and last name. So this name forms a component which is having three values inside it. So that is a composite attribute. Similarly, address is a composite attribute which consists of street, city, state, and zip code. So these are given here. Name, so you have some indent to specify that this is a composite attribute, and the name, it is composed of first name, middle name and last name. Address, similar to that, that is a component or composite attribute which consists of street, city, state and zip, which are the components of address. And the address attribute street itself is a composite attribute which consists of street number, street name and apartment number. So there is a indentation to show that this is a composite attribute inside street. So this is how you can represent the complex attributes or component attributes. Then you have multi-valued attribute, which is phone number, which is denoted inside set bracket. So every person now are having more than one phone numbers. To indicate that the phone number is having more than one value, it is indicated inside a bracket or a block. And you have one more method to indicate the derived attribute. For example, when you want to calculate the age of a person, then you can get the date of birth and the current date, and subtracting that you will get the age. So age is derived from the attribute date of birth. It is called as derived attribute, which is indicated with this function symbol. So these are the various ways we can represent each of these attributes of different nature in a ER diagram. And the next thing is roles. So already in one session we have discussed about roles. So we can indicate the roles in ER diagram by labeling the lines that connect the diamond to the rectangles. Role indicators course ID and prerequisite ID between the course entity set and the prerequisite relationship set. So a course will have course ID, title and credits. So this course ID and the prerequisite ID or the roles. The course, some courses may be the prerequisite of some other courses. So this is where you can represent the roles. For example, a staff may be the manager, so that manager can be represented here. Similar to that, we can represent the roles on the lines. And the next is non-binary relationship. That is, binary relationship connects two entities, whereas a non-binary relationship, here it is ternary relationship, connects three entities. You have a relationship project guide that connects three entities, that is instructor, project and student. The project instructor guides for a student on a particular project. So this project guide is associated with three different entities: instructor, project and student. Summary: we have discussed a lot of things in this session. So we have started with keys, which are used for identification of the tuples in a relation. We have different types of keys like composite key, primary key, alternate, composite and foreign keys. And we have discussed about ER diagram components, mapping cardinality, the complex attributes and the roles. This is the reference book. Thank you.